Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm Denise Kolobowski, the Executive Director of the MSUD Family Support Group, and I'm so very grateful you're joining us tonight. In our session, we're going to reflect on the importance of collaboration across rare disease communities. As we know, advocacy is strongest when patients, caregivers, clinicians, and organizations like all of us here today work together for shared goals, amplifying our collective voice and advancing our policies and systems that improve access, equity, and long-term outcomes. I'm joined this evening by Danae Barke, the Executive Director of the HCU Network America, who will guide us through an hour and facilitate Q&A. We're also honored to hear from Samantha Stallings with a brief advocacy perspective. And then our main speaker is Shannon Von Felden, the representative from EveryLife Foundation. In the next hour, we'll move forward through 4 segments. We'll have a brief welcome and introduction, a spotlight on the advocacy perspective, our keynote presentation, and then a moderated Q&A to close the evening. As a quick overview, this webinar is part of our advocacy webinar series, designed to make advocacy practical and approachable, whether you're brand new or looking to deepen your involvement. But before we begin, we'd like to take a moment to recognize our sponsors and partners who help make this webinar possible. We're so thankful for the support of our sponsors, Nutricia and VitaFlow, for our partners, EveryLife Foundation, the HCU Network America, and the Propionic Acidemia Foundation. And now I'll turn things over to Danae.
Thank you, Denise, and welcome everyone. I'm Danae Barke, the Executive Director of HCU Network America. To begin, we're going to hear a short spotlight, excuse me, I'm tripping over my words here. A short spotlight advocacy perspective from Samantha Stallings. Samantha is a dedicated first grade teacher and swim coach who lives with classical homocystinuria and Loitz-Dietz syndrome. Diagnosed in 2015, she has since become a passionate advocate for newborn screening and the Medical Nutrition Equity Act. Samantha, thank you for being here, and we're honored to have your perspective. Please go ahead.
Thank you for having me. So my advocacy journey, I guess technically I started when I was born, but the whole thing kind of started when I was 23 when I was diagnosed. When I was diagnosed, I have always kind of had my parents advocate for me. Fast forward, that was in 2015. Fast forward to 2017 or 2018, I can't remember exactly. I can't remember if I was scrolling through Instagram or I was already following them, or it was just like an ad that popped up, but something from EveryLife popped up on my Instagram, and it was for Rare on the Road in Nashville. And I remember reaching out to the Instagram, just saying, "Hey, I live in Louisville. Is there anything any closer?" There wasn't at the time, but they had told me to reach out to. They had a young adult group that advocated on rare diseases, and so I reached out to them, and I shortly after that joined YARD, which Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Young Adults of Rare Diseases now. Is that right, Shannon?
It's Young Adult Rare Representatives.
Right, thank you. Yeah, I knew they changed the name since the last time, but I joined them, and then in 2018, my parents encouraged me to apply for a travel stipend for Rare Disease Week because everyone was telling me that I needed to go. So I applied for the travel stipend. I ended up getting it. I was very hesitant on going at first because my parents said they weren't going to go with me, and doing something very new to me was not something I was comfortable doing by myself, but my mom pushed me. And I think I waited till literally the last day that I could say yes to the travel stipend to say that I was coming. And I ended up going to my first Rare Disease Week in February of 2019. The best decision I've ever made, and I've been going ever since. More recently, it's kind of been every other year with my teaching. I haven't been able to get a lot of time off, but I do Rare Across America every year. That is more towards in your home state, and you meet with your local representative and your 2 senators. Lately, since COVID, the 2 senators have been online, And the congressmen have, or sorry, excuse me, the representatives have been in person, but Rare Disease Week since the year after COVID has been back in person, and I honestly love it back in person. I was telling someone not too long ago that every year that I don't get to go, I have serious fear, FOMO, fear of missing out, because I get pictures from all my friends that, they're having so much fun. But I've been advocating since then, and honestly love it. It's one of those things that I don't regret, and I have never looked back on. Because I feel like if I don't advocate for myself, who's going to advocate for me besides my family? And I am getting to the age that, doctors and other people don't want to listen to my parents. They want to listen to me because it's my story. And I feel like it comes across stronger when it comes to from you yourself.
Thank you so much, Samantha, for sharing your story and your advocacy perspective. Like you said, that doctors now want to hear from you, and who is advocate for you. So that's really awesome to have that level of self-empowerment. I'm sure that feels really good. We really appreciate your leadership and the work you're doing to raise awareness and improve the outcomes for so many others in the rare disease community. Now it's my privilege to introduce our main speaker, Shannon von Felden. She's the Vice President of Advocacy at the EveryLife Foundation for Rare Diseases. Shannon has led rare disease legislative advocates for more than 7 years and works with advocates nationwide to engage at the local, state, and federal levels. She began her career on Capitol Hill working on healthcare and veteran affairs issues. She has also supported policy and advocacy goals for national nonprofit organizations. Shannon, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We look forward to hearing from you. Please take it away.
Thank you so much, Denise. I am sharing my screen right now. There we go. Perfect. Thank you so much for that introduction. I appreciate it. It's so fun to hear Samantha talk about her advocacy journey, as I was at that first Rare Disease Week she attended in 2019. And it has been a pleasure to see Samantha and other young adults who participate in the Young Adult Rare Representatives Program, see them grow and become stronger and stronger advocates for themselves and others in their communities. If you haven't heard of the EveryLife Foundation, we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization, and we're powered by the rare disease community to improve health outcomes by driving change through evidence-based policy, leading science-driven policy and regulatory research, activating the community to advocate for their rights and needs, and strengthen the rare disease community. And that pillar on activating the community through advocacy is what we do as part of the Rare Disease Legislative Advocates Program. This is our main advocacy arm here at the EveryLife Foundation. And our biggest aim is to educate patient advocates about how legislation and policy impact the availability and access to treatments, and provide them with the resources, the training, the opportunities to be effective advocates. We also want to make sure that those who are on Capitol Hill know that rare diseases exist, that there are over 10,000 rare diseases, and that they're hearing directly from the patients and caregivers who are impacted by rare diseases, so that they can fully understand what it is like to live with a rare disease and what the barriers and challenges are that patients and families face. So today, I would love to talk to you all about what it means to be an advocate, how to advocate, and then what those opportunities and resources for you to start your advocacy journey are. So first, what is advocacy? It is really basic. It's an activity by a person or a group to influence or change decisions made by the people who make our laws. So we're talking about legislative advocacy today. Many of you are probably very familiar with patient advocacy, where you're constantly advocating with healthcare professionals, hospitals, insurance, all of those I would consider patient Advocacy. And today we're going to talk about legislative advocacy, and that is influencing the decisions that are made by policy makers. And I know that can sound really intimidating, overwhelming. One of the things I love about my job is that I started out working on Capitol Hill for a member of Congress. I was one of those young staffers back in the day who worked for a congresswoman. And I love demystifying what it's like to advocate on the Hill. I was the person you'd come in and talk to about the issues that you were facing, about bills that you wanted the member to support. And I love being able to teach others what that process looks like and make it a little less scary for people. So most people start out like Samantha, advocating for very personal reasons, whether it's themselves, their family members, their community. These statistics here illustrate many of what your own personal experiences and challenges might have looked like for you and your family. From diagnostic odysseys that lasted for many years, experiencing medical and non-medical costs, and needing access to therapies for your rare disease. And what advocacy does is it transforms these numbers, these statistics that you and most other rare disease patients and families are experiencing, whether it's one or more of these statistics, and it puts a face, a person, a real story on the lived experience of having a rare disease and bringing that to your legislators so they want to help you and others. So we will talk a lot about sharing your story and how to share your story actually with my colleague Kenley later this month. And she will get into more details about what that looks like. That's a really important part of advocacy. Many ask where they should start because where you live really does matter and really does dictate the challenges, the barriers, the issues, the type of care that you're able to access really depends on where you live. So for some, that local and state government becomes more of a priority depending on the state that you live in. But advocacy at all levels is important. So if advocating at your local government, your state government, your state capital is a lot closer for most people than coming to Washington, D.C., you can advocate at your local and state levels and make a big difference there in addition to advocating at the federal level. It can also depend on what your goals might be. Newborn screening, access to care and treatments, a lot of those are made at the state level, while at the government level, research funding, regulatory issues are happening more at the federal level. This does look a little bit intimidating. The reason I like to show how the steps for a bill to become a law is to really just illustrate that there are a lot of opportunities and times where your advocacy can make a difference. Advocates can come and meet with a staffer or a legislator, talk about an issue that they're facing, and that legislator could write a bill and decide that they're going to help make a change on that issue to help people. Or there could be a bill already out there that you support or oppose. And there are opportunities throughout the life cycle of that bill to make your voice heard. And so you can reach out to your legislators when a bill is introduced, when you see that committees are meeting and voting on that bill, when you see that it's headed to either the Senate or House floor, and then again, if it were to pass and head to the other side of the Capitol, either to the House or the Senate. So it is very rare for a bill to move quickly through Congress. We've seen it on rare occasions. This can take, if not through a session, it can take multiple sessions, a session being 2 years and can take years, where a bill has to be reintroduced every 2 years. So it is an arduous process, a long process, but there are lots of opportunities to make sure that your voice is heard. So how do you advocate? Advocating is really about building relationships. You want to create relationships either with your state and or your federal lawmakers. You want to be their go-to person that they're going to when healthcare issues are coming up, that they're looking at changes to insurance policies, they're looking at Medicaid changes. You want to be a story, a person that they think about when they see these issues coming through their office and on their desk. And you want to become, really ideally, you want to become the person that they're reaching out to when these issues are coming, that they're reaching out to their constituents that they know are experienced experts on these issues, right? How is this impacting my constituents? How is this going to impact Samantha in Louisville? How will this issue affect my constituents with rare diseases? And building these relationships takes time. But if you're like Samantha, who continues to go into that office and continues to bring issues to them, you become a person that they can also go to for information, to learn more. So that's really like the ideal situation for advocacy that you will get to. Sharing your story is such an important part of that process. And we always emphasize that having an ask, having something that you want them to do, makes that encounter so much more impactful. When you go in and you share your story and you tell them about the challenges, the barriers you're facing, that is important for them to hear. Awareness and education is such an important part of advocacy, but to really take it to the next level, making sure that you're asking them to do something and being very specific on what that is, whether it's supporting a particular bill, voting a certain way, is really the goal of going in and meeting with your legislators. But asking questions is a really great way to continue to build those relationships and advocate too. And having those conversations, engaging with organizations that support you, that you work with, like you are doing today. I also hear from tons of advocates who support others with their policy goals and get involved with other organizations and other advocates when they align. And that just helps to amplify the message that legislators are receiving from the rare disease community. So creating the relationships, there are lots of different ways to do this. Aside from going in and meeting with your legislators, you can go in and meet with your legislators in DC, your federal legislators. You can go into their district offices too. Those federal legislators have district offices that are close by in the district. They have staff, district staff who work in those offices. You can stop by and drop off materials. You can call the office and make an appointment to meet with the staff who work in the district office or the legislator who works in the district office. Legislators have a lot more time when they're home in the district to meet with their constituents than they do back in DC when they're running from hearings and to meetings to receptions to vote on the floor. I highly recommend, if you're interested in advocacy, to dip your toe in and start with meeting with the district office. But you can also call your lawmakers when you disagree or support an issue. Make sure that you are logging in your voice on that particular issue when you know that legislators are going to be taking action on it soon, whether it's a state or a federal issue. You can attend events that your elected officials hold in the district or in the state. Town halls are pretty popular. My council member in DC does coffee meetups at a local coffee shop once every couple of months. And that's an opportunity for me and others in my community to stop in and say hi and bring up that my trash hasn't been collected in the past few weeks. So those are great opportunities to come in, talk about your rare disease, make that introduction. You can also attend community gatherings held by legislators. or invite a legislator. If you're having a community event, invite the legislators or their staff to attend as well. You can post on social media, send in letters, postcards, or emails as well. The relationships that you're building really do impact the decisions that are being made by your legislators. This table here was a survey done from, it was done by surveying congressional staffers on the impact that certain actions had on offices' decisions on issues that they were undecided on. And what the survey found was that in-person visits from constituents had the most influence on the offices. What I like to lump, this was pre-COVID, I also like to lump virtual meetings into that. Congressional offices are doing a lot more virtual meetings than they ever did before COVID. That is still on the table and something that congressional staffers are still doing, virtual Zoom meetings. And I think that they are very similar and have very similar impacts as the actual in-person constituents. I think what's important to note here is that individualized and personalized messages to Congress are also much more impactful than a form letter or other form type communication. So if you're going to write an email or send a letter, make sure to personalize it. There are a lot of technical systems that offices use to weed out form letters and whatnot. So personalizing your message will give it more of a chance of being seen by the staff and getting a response too. So when should you advocate? I already showed the life cycle of a bill and showed that you can basically advocate anytime and all the time. You can schedule those in-district meetings during district work periods. That's when our Rare Across America event happens, is in August, when the legislators are home for the August recess. I would also recommend paying attention if there are bills or issues that are important to you. Pay attention to how they're progressing through the House and the Senate, and schedule the meetings when you see that, oh, there is a hearing on that. I mean, there was just a hearing in the Senate Committee on Aging on regulatory issues. Now's a great time to reach out to those members who sit on that committee and talk more about what that issue means, if it has any relevance to you or your community. You basically don't want to wait until it's too late. The worst thing is to read in the paper online that a bill was passed and that's going to have negative ramifications on you or your family or your community, and to have not made sure that your voice was heard. I would also just note that for state legislatures, if you're interested in state advocacy, you will want to check when your state legislature meets and when they're active. Some legislatures like Nevada and Texas only meet every other year, while some legislatures like Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, Massachusetts, they will meet like all year round, but most legislatures in this country meet for a very short window. So check when the legislatures meet and meet with your state legislators during that work period to make sure that you don't miss out on your chance to make your voice heard. We do offer a lot of different tools. You'll find all of these on our website. We have policy primers on specific policy issues. I'm thinking there was one on the priority review voucher program. There's one on PDUFA. So kind of these broader policy issues that seem to need to be reauthorized. We have legislative scorecards by state that you can download. You can use it for your advocacy purposes, like when you meet with your legislators, or you can use it to prep ahead of time and see what your members in your state have supported in the past. We also have tip sheets. So really like basic advocacy information to help you. We have a tip sheet on how to schedule a meeting with your legislator, what that process looks like, how you do it. If you're interested in funding levels, we have a tip sheet on congressional appropriations, what that process looks like, and when you can make the most impact in your advocacy, tips on how to foster a relationship with your member of Congress. Those are all on our website. We also have a lot of opportunities for you and others in the community to get more involved and to start your advocacy journey if you are interested. We try and make it as easy as possible. When you sign up to attend Rare Disease Week or Rare Across America, we have webinar trainings. We're providing you with one-pagers. We're scheduling the meetings for you and sending you the Zoom link or what have you. And trying to set you up for as much success as possible so that you can concentrate on how you're going to share your story, showing up to the meeting, and being your best self. So we have a lot of different programs. I'm going to just give you a snapshot of things that are coming up that might be of the most interest. But if there are other opportunities that you have heard of through RDLA or EveryLife, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to give you information and or contact information for them. So our biggest advocacy programs that are coming up, we actually host 2 to 3 state advocacy days a year where we meet at a state capitol and bring advocates to meet, train you, and then schedule meetings for you with your state legislators. We just had our event in Phoenix, Arizona earlier this month. And so our next 2026 dates and states are coming soon. So stay tuned. If you get our communications from EveryLife, if you're in a state that will have a state advocacy day, you will get an email about it when registration opens. We also have a youth and teen advocacy day. It's virtual. It'll be on June 18th this year, and it's for advocates 10 to 18. So it can be a patient themselves, a sibling, a son or daughter of a patient, anyone who is connected to the rare disease community in some way. We train the kids ahead of time. We have webinars just like this with the kids and talk through advocacy and the policy issues that we're going to be discussing in very age-appropriate terms, have resources and age-appropriate reading levels for the kids. And we schedule the meetings and have our staff members join them for meetings and help them along the way. And that has been a really wonderful program. And we actually got to see a few of those kiddos at Rare Disease Week as well this year. And then Rare Across America, Samantha already explained it, basically. Rare Across America is our in-district virtual program. So we're in person in Rare Disease Week in Washington, D.C., but we want to make sure that others have opportunities to advocate closer to home and virtually as well, knowing that Rare Disease Week is hard to get to for many people. So Rare Across America, it's in-person meetings with your representative in their district office and virtual meetings with senators. And we found that that's a really nice balance for people. You can choose just to do the virtual Senate meetings, just the in-person representative meetings, or all three. And then Rare Disease Week, just to put it on your radar, we literally just had Rare Disease Week last week. And I will say it was amazing to see everyone here in DC. And the weather was actually not so bad too. So we were lucky. So Rare Disease Week 2027, I can't even believe I said 2027, will be March 2nd to 4th. So it'll be the first week of March next year. What is important to keep your eye out if you are interested is that travel reimbursement application that Samantha mentioned. We do offer travel reimbursements. It's like a certain amount per state. So we're trying to get as many people from all 50 states as we can. So I will give a caveat, it's probably a lot harder to get a travel reimbursement if you're coming from California. But if you're coming from Maine or South Dakota or Montana, we would love to have you. We'd love to have all of you, but it is easier to get it from the smaller state. But definitely keep your eye out for the travel reimbursement application. It usually opens in late September and then closes in early November. So you have a little bit more than a month to apply. It's a very simple, easy application. And then we notify everyone before the holidays in December as to whether or not they're receiving a travel reimbursement so that they can make their travel arrangements to come to DC. And then we open the registration in January when we return from the holidays. So registration for Rare Disease Week next year will open in January. We also have a lot, if you're not ready to like start, dive right in with one of our advocacy programs events, you are more than welcome to participate in our learning opportunities. We hold monthly webinars. The monthly webinars are really focused on current policy issues. So what is Congress working on? What has been newly introduced? And then ways that you can advocate for those if those opportunities are available. Then we have our Share Your Story webinars. We host those once a quarter, so 4 times a year. And we usually do one before Rare Disease Week, one before Rare Across America, where you're really like getting tips on how to tell your story and then time to practice telling your story. And then we've held Share Your Story webinars that kind of dive into different ways that advocates might advocate and share their story. So we've done ones on art, we've done it on like accessibility, we've done one on like sharing your story through local media. So just different ways to share your story and to practice communicating that. And then we also have quarterly state advocacy webinars that are really diving into state legislation and issues that you can follow in your state as well. And the Young Adult Rare Representatives program that Samantha mentioned, this is really a great program that's for advocates between 16 and 30. So if you have a teenager who might be interested, or if you yourself are a young adult, I highly recommend taking a look. It's for patient advocates, it's for family members. We do really want that close tie. So we do turn people away that don't have some kind of personal connection, either themselves or their family members, for the most part. But what is so great is this program not only focuses on building advocacy skills, it also creates a lot of skill building opportunities for this next generation of rare disease advocates. So we have a speakers bureau, we have a leadership seminar series, a YAR Leadership Academy, that's what it's called. And these are really great opportunities for YARs to build their skills. There are even like opportunities through YAR for career building skills. So it really goes a little bit even beyond what you might think of as an advocacy program. So if you're interested, there is an application online. The application, for the most part, is just making sure that you're meeting the eligibility requirements. And if you're interested in YAR or any of our other programs or events, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I think I met my time. But thank you so much for having me. If you're interested in signing up for our newsletter or email communications, you can do that at everylifefoundation.org. The best way to make sure that you're receiving emails about our events or travel reimbursement applications and whatnot. And you can also follow us on our social medias. And you can email me at svonfelden@everylifefoundation.org as well if you have any questions.
Thank you, Shannon. We'll move into the Q&A now. You're welcome to submit your questions into the chat at any now or anytime, really. If you would like, you can also come off mute and ask your questions directly for Shannon. We have a lot of time, so don't rush to ask.
Has anyone participated in like an advocacy event or met with their legislators before? Or is this all new?
I have.
Oh, that's great.
I met with my local congressman trying to get MSD awareness day passed, and then shortly after that he lost the election. He was going to do it for us.
That's a great thing to bring to the newly elected legislator, though. You can show them what the former one did in the past and see if they're
Yeah,
willing to help out too.
it wasn't. This was like before COVID, right before COVID
Mm,
even.
gotcha.
She had a very different personality and platform that she was going for, so we did feel it would be a good connection, and we unfortunately never made another one.
So if that is something that anyone is interested in, HCU Network America last year actually, we were able to obtain proclamations, I think, in 15 states for HCU Awareness Month. So if you are interested, if there's a specific day for MSUD or a specific month, I am happy to share that information we were able to put together.
Yeah.
If it's PA, HCU, MSUD, any of them, because it was really helpful in kind of getting our voices out there. With proclamations, though, you do have to submit them every single year. We didn't know that going in. We thought they were one and done, and it's a yearly effort, but it's a really fun way to kind of include the community, and it's a different form of advocacy. So it just kind of, I think it's good though that it needs to be done yearly, just because it puts it back on the radar for the governor's office in each state. So
Have you done it for on a federal level or just a state level?
just a state level. So it's every just different states. It's a much bigger push to do the federal level. And so
I was
um
going for federal. I'm when I did it.
okay.
So I didn't really consider doing it state. Would we need someone in every state?
You do need a representative for the state if you're
Mm.
pursuing it that way. And there's simple ways to do it too. You could have someone from the organization, or a volunteer from the organization submit on the behalf of individuals. So like you could set up a form with their name, address, and email address and phone number, and then submit on their behalf. So that way they don't have to kind of navigate the nuances of the different websites.
Did,
Um, and
did you
so
have to meet with someone or just fill out a form for that?
they're just forms usually online. There's only a couple states who have a wall behind it. So
Can you send me that information?
yes, I will put it on my list.
And then I have a question for either Denise or Sandy. Do we have an active person in how, let me rephrase that. How many states do we have an active person that would might be willing to do this?
That's a challenging question, Susan. Sandy's shaking her head too, going,
I will
well.
tell you, so what we did it a social media post. It was that simple. We just put on social media that, we're looking for people within certain states who would want to help help obtain a proclamation in their state. And then we also had families that we would reach out to in specific states. It was a great way to also engage families that you really haven't had an opportunity to, because it's honestly a very low level ask. It's not too much. So there's different ways that you can do it. We did handpick quite a few people because we knew they were active in the community, but then for the states that we didn't have, we said, these are states we're looking for. So I can follow up with you on that though.
Yes,
Danae,
please.
just a quick estimate, just to know what we would be asking of families. How in depth is that form? Is this like a 20-minute
You would
sort
have
of
a template for
commitment
them to work
or?
off of. So on average, they take between maybe 5, 10 at the very most. They're pretty
As you
easy.
say, I did it, and like honestly, what Danae sent me, I copied and pasted from what she sent me, and it took me maybe 2, 3 minutes max.
Hmm, that's good.
I
That's very
know over the years a lot of people have asked me if there was a day, so maybe I can
Mhm.
go back and say, hey, you want to be the person who makes it happen in your state?
Outside of proclamations, are there any questions for Shannon? Or I know Shannon had the question if there was any other people who had participated in advocacy efforts, either at the state or even within, it doesn't have to even be your state. I mean, I know the people within our city were very interested to hear kind of some of the things because we just honestly even tried to like get lights in our town for Rare Disease Day. Turns out we have to make the request a lot earlier than I
days.
anticipated. And so there's a lot of different ways to get involved.
I have a question. Can you hear me? My thing
Yeah.
froze. Okay. So I have a 10-month-old daughter with MSUD, and I know that, sharing our story is really important for advocacy, raising funding, legislative support, all of the above. But I'm also weighing that anything that I share, especially online, is forever, right? And that can follow her into adolescence and adulthood. And I never want anything to be used against her in terms of, like, I don't know, insurance companies or job discrimination or things like that. On the other hand, I don't want her to get into adulthood and look back and go, Mom, why did you never say anything? Or like, why did you never, like, fight for things systemically to be changed? So I'm not asking for like a should I, shouldn't I type of thing, but just what are some of the considerations that I should be thinking about? How do families kind of make thoughtful decisions when they're deciding what to share, but also conscious of protecting their child's long-term privacy?
Yeah. I mean, I think all families approach this in different ways, and that you have to do what feels right and comfortable for you. I'm a parent. I'm very protective of my kids' footprints online as well. And so I think what's important to note is that, like, you as a parent, like, your story matters. You know, a picture of a child or a video of a kid like does pull like those heartstrings, but I think that your story matters. Your experience, you conveying what it's like for her, is also very like valid. So I think from that approach, it's still very effective advocacy, and you shouldn't feel inclined to share more than what you want to share until you're ready. I know many kids grow up and become young adults or teens and start to share their own stories when they're feeling empowered and comfortable to do so. And I know a lot of parents like to wait until their kid wants to do it, that they want to share their story, that they want to be more vocal about it, they want to be out there, and make it more of a family event. And so I think it's just doing what feels right, and maybe dipping in your toes as a parent and seeing what it's like. A lot of advocacy does happen on social media. You probably have seen it. There's some really effective advocacy happening on social media, TikTok videos, and whatnot. The Yars are really good at TikTok. I'm still learning myself. But advocacy, there's so many different ways to be an advocate. We just had Rare Disease Week, where there were a lot of families who came together with their kids, and went to meetings all together with their kids. And those are really great opportunities too, that aren't happening online, and your picture, your kid's picture being shared outside of what you're comfortable with.
I can share what I do if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we never told my family details about what I had. They would think they know more than they do about it, especially in the 90s. If you Googled it, there was no Google. If you went to a library, you found very different information than you do today about it. We didn't want people to think they know more than they did, or think that I was not capable of things that I am capable of. And unfortunately, that was the literature available when I was born in 1990. Everything's different today. But when I became involved myself in the community, I wanted to I was already an adult. I never shared that stuff with my family. I kind of wanted to just keep it that way. So I created a separate Facebook account. And on that Facebook account, you do not see my profile picture. It says Susan's Kitchen. Funny picture found online. And my name's Susan Lynn. It's not Susan Needleman. I'm very careful about what I post there, but everyone I have as a friend there is somehow connected to MSUD. I have my family on a separate Facebook page. I also have a page on Facebook, My Life with MSUD. Never gave my name on it. Never gave my picture. I just give facts about MSUD. And sometimes facts about my experience with MSUD. But it's very broad about who this person could be. And then I'm very active in the community, but my name's not always associated with it. Now, if you Google my name now, you will probably find it somewhere because I am so involved, but I'm choosing to be.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, on a social media aspect, I found a way to separate those two.
I think those are all very good examples. And I know if you start looking at the broader rare disease community, you'll find other parents who do find a way to advocate. And again, they won't show their kids' faces. They won't use their last names. If they do if they do show their children, a lot of time it's from the back. So you don't actually know. I have a really funny story. I was invited to speak at an event in the UK in November. And there's a mom that I've spoken to for the past 4 years. And she posts things about her low protein food. She does post things about her child, but I've never seen her child. I've never seen a picture of this mom. And again, we've been connected on Instagram for 4 years. And she comes up to me in the bathroom. She goes, Danae, I can't believe you're here. And because I've never seen this person before, I'm like, who are you? And so I think there are other really great examples on social media. I think if you look and kind of see what the broader inborn error metabolism community is kind of doing, what some other parents are doing, you can get a good feel for how can I have a voice and be a voice without putting my family in this position where I feel like, there's too much on the line. And I think Susan's idea, and I see a lot of people with this on Instagram more than anything, where they have multiple Instagram handles just to kind of separate their advocacy life, their work life, and their personal life. And I think that's happening more and more now just because no one wants their employer seeing how they live their life on their weekend. And so obviously people can get there if they probably really, really want to, but I don't think most people are going to go that far out of the way.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody. That's really helpful, those different perspectives.
That's a really good question, though, to ask.
Welcome to MSG community.
We have a couple minutes here left for Shannon. Does anyone else have any other questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to introduce myself to Kimberly. I'm Sandy Bulcher, president of the MSUD Family Support Group. And you are certainly welcome to reach out to me anytime. I have an adult son with MSUD and have been involved in advocacy over the years, primarily in the state of Ohio, with newborn screening and our formula legislation. But I don't have experience with it. He's 36, so I don't have experience with it, how to handle this with a baby in this age of social media. But anyhow, I can certainly help you with any MSUD questions and anything you want about our organization.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate that.
I'm an adult with MSG. I will put my email chat too. I'm also an editor of MSG newsletter. I'll put a link if you want to sign up to subscribe to that as well.
Oh, definitely. I've subscribed to that. Thanks, Susan.
Oh, great. Yeah. Can I ask what part of the country you're in?
Sure. I'm in California.
Okay.
In the follow-up email, I'll make sure to include Sandy's information and Susan's as well, if both of you are okay with that.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Danae.
Now I don't have to type it.
Making myself notes here. So I remember.
I guess the question for Shannon is what should be the first step? It can be so intimidating for families that are so busy handling the daily, day-to-day challenges of rare diseases. What do you suggest would be that first step or that first conversation?
I think one of my tips that I like to share with people is to kind of lean into their strengths, right? To figure out what they're strong at and to work with that. Some people are really creative on social media. Some people are really great writers. Some people share amazing stories. Some people have send videos to their I think that there's such a gamut of what you can do, that honing in on your strengths. I think also being realistic with where you are in your life, right? If you have little ones at home still, like now might not be a time to be like traveling to DC or, coming up with a whole campaign. And although you can if you want to, but I think just being realistic with what your time is at the moment, where you are in your life. I have older kids, so I have a lot more free time than someone with a young kid at home. And so maybe right now, all that you have that time for is once a week, checking the news and calling your legislators' offices. That's more than enough to get started, or writing an email, finding out who the Health LA is in each of your congressional offices. The Health LA is the person who handles healthcare for the representative or the senator. Find out who that person is, find out their email address, email them and introduce yourself and let them know that you're living in their district and what is important to you. So there are like some really like little small steps that you can take to get started, to dip your toes in. And then as things come up, it builds. And when you have more time, more flexibility, you can make those bigger steps.
Is the LA mean legislative aid? Is that what that?
Yeah, legislative assistant. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for asking that, Sandy, because I was wondering, I'm like, liaison? I'm like, I don't know.
The Hill still uses very old school terms.
And the more you get contact with them, the better it is. Because I'm like with Morgan, Representative McGarvey's office, I feel like I'm almost best friends with the LA here in the district office. Because every time we come in, like it's like a catch-up session more than a advocating session.
I think you probably stand out very much though, Sam. Like you're a very memorable person, at least in my book. So my husband talks about when we met in Kentucky. Like he doesn't remember people, but he remembered you. So but that's so great to hear that they do have those relationships and they do remember their constituents and the people that they've talked to. I think the one thing I've learned from so much is there's so much advocacy is networking and just building those relationships. That's really what it is. It's relationship building. It's not necessarily even the people in the offices, but also people who are on your side also advocating for the same things as you. Because I think we learned so much from each other. I've learned so much from Sam and the EveryLife group. I continue to learn new things all the time. And there's so much to know and understand. Having those people in your pocket to help you kind of troubleshoot through things, I think is incredibly helpful. And so there's a lot of wonderful people in the advocacy community that can help kind of you forward and mentor you too on that journey.
And you're not expected to know everything. Even if
Absolutely
you're
not.
walking into an office to discuss a particular bill, you are not expected to be a legislative expert in those meetings. Your role is just to tell your story, how you're impacted by rare diseases, and how that bill might be able to help you and your family. So you're an expert on your story, on your lived experience. You're not expected to be a legislative policy expert to do this.
And I think it's important to mention how much you will communicate with the legislative aid versus the legislator. If the legislator seems intimidating, well, I had very little contact with that person, but the legislative aide years ago, just like Sam was saying, we developed a relationship and had some easy conversations, and that was much less threatening.
I agree. It is way less threatening. When you do actually get your representative, I think it's far more intimidating, just because they're in such a high position of power. But I also think it's important for anyone to remember that they are just people when you do meet with them, and you have something they don't. You have lived experience with your condition, and that's more powerful than anything that they have. Yes, they can make rules, but our stories really are that important to the piece. I think we're about out of time, so I want to thank you all for being here. And I also want to impart on you that advocacy, it doesn't have to be complicated. One clear action can make a real difference, and so it doesn't have to be big. Thank you to our sponsors, Nutricia and VitaFlow, for supporting this webinar. We're also really grateful for our partners at the EveryLife Foundation, MSUD Family Support, and the Propionic Acidemia Foundation. Collaboration across these communities strengthens our shared voices and helps move advocacy forward for all families that we serve. I also want to make sure that on your radar is our next session, which will be held March 19th at 6 p.m. Eastern, which is our storytelling workshop with Shannon's colleague, Kenley. And so we hope that you will join us. And we hope that you have a wonderful evening. And again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.